So just got a set of Union's new Expedition snowboard or splitboard bindings. Pretty psyched on these as I've been using like the standard splitboard bindings over the past couple seasons, and just hyped to get on something that I feels more like what I traditionally ride on a day-to-day basis as I currently ride Unions. So psyched that they're making a splitboard binding. They've got a different interface. So that's kind of like a unique thing that goes into these, as well as being like fully plastic on the bottom instead of metal. So with the bindings, you get these plates that go from the board to the splitboard pucks, and these are pretty sweet because this board I have right here is a DIY splitboard from Capita's Charlie Slasher. They had a split core down the middle, so you're able to cut it without sealing it off. And these plates allow you to utilize the existing hole patterns of the insert pack instead of having to drill new holes, which, as you can see, unfortunately I'd already done because this system didn't exist when I made this splitboard. But the cool thing now is that it allows me to change my stance. So I don't need to run the exact stance that I was running before, which is just cool. So yeah, these are going to go on the board, and then it also comes with your pucks, which are a circular puck, and so then these go on these plates, and comes with all the necessary hardware and everything. So I'm going to set this up. And so in the box you're supplied with all the hardware. So with these plates, you want to, obviously one for each side, just line up with the holes that you're going to use. So throw those on there, and then it also comes with this little piece here that pretty much just dials in the correct spacing for you. So when you attach the pucks, they're going to be at the correct distance for everything to work properly. So make sure you put that in and then line everything up, and you just want to kind of keep everything centered with the middle of these plates. So I've got that here. Screw these in. Once you got it lined up, make sure to get everything nice and tight. Alright, sweet. So now that part's done, you can remove the little block here, and then you can take your pucks. So they come with 2 long pieces of hardware, and then this plate that's going to allow you to figure out the angles that you want on your setup. So obviously you got one on the heel side, one on the toe side. The best way to do it is to thread these. Kind of pick your angle from there, and just want to make sure that it's even on each side, so you use the same amount of teeth from the end. And so just gonna take these and snug them up. So now that they're kind of snugged up, you're gonna take your binding and you just place it on and turn it into place, and then tighten the hardware the rest of the way down. Alright, and then with that done, that should be all the proper spacing for everything. So then from there, you're going to put the binding on with the prongs in the opening, and then spin it, and as you spin it, it's going to tighten and pull the board together. So it's hopefully going to feel a lot more like a standard snowboard instead of a board that's cut in half. And then you're going to slide the pin through and then slap it down into place, and there you go. So that's the first one, and I'll pull it back out so you can see the other one. Try to use some measuring tape and double check. That's where I wanted it, but I don't see any. Either way, same thing. So put the spacer plate on there and kind of just thread the screws in. Don't go like super tight right off the bat. And this will just allow you to move everything into the proper place with the right amount of space on each side. I had a little snug. Now you can tighten everything down. Definitely just make sure to get everything nice and tight, because you don't have to deal with stuff loosening up when you're out splitboarding. So again, with these, just thread them in a couple of turns. And then again, pick your angles. So my back, I like to have a couple degrees out, what most people refer to as a duck stance. But if you like look down at your feet while you're just standing there, you're going to notice that you're standing in that position as well. So the big thing here is just to make sure that they're even on both sides. And once you got that, just get them down just snug. Don't kind of crank on it just yet. And I think that's just so everything just gets tightened down correctly. Those are instructions straight from Union. So now that you got the binding on there and everything's kind of snugged down, you're going to want to, again, tighten the hardware. And again, on this stuff, like, make sure to get it nice and tight so then you don't have to deal with anything loose when you're on the mountain. Should still always carry a tool anyway, because you never know what can happen. So now that those are tight, yeah. So each binding, slide on, the pin will go through, and then it's got a nice little slot down there, keep it from coming out. Same up front. Goes through, and we're boarding. The one thing that I've been seeing people just kind of like asking about is that there's a little bit of movement with the binding. Nothing super crazy, but there's definitely a little bit of movement there. Union's mentioned that it was built that way as the plastic contracts a bit when you get it out in the cold. So this is going to be reduced when you're out riding, and I've gotten to ride these at a resort. Actually, I got on the demo day, which usually, you know, you don't go to riding a split board and split board bindings on a resort day, but that was kind of what the demo we had was, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised that they felt really similar to the standard forest bindings that I already ride. So I'm really excited for these, since having, you know, some personal experience of actually riding them on hardpack, or it was like a pretty mixed day overall. It was kind of rain, snow, groomer mix. But yeah, I was really psyched on how they rode. So glad to get into a pair this year, and yeah, have a more like natural snowboard ride. And then from here, you know, for your regular touring mode, you can pull them off. Put your board into touring mode, and actually you're going to keep the ratchets on the outside, so just line it up, standard pin system through the toe, and then the top of the pin just goes in behind the toe strap, so then it can't move and come out on you. So yeah, super simple, pretty self-explanatory there. And then with the heel riser for touring mode, it's just really easy to get to in the back. So like with your pole, it's really easy to push it down because there isn't like a lock, which I was really stoked on, because the stuff I've used in the past, like you can't really use your pole basket because it'll just bend it back, so you'd have to like flip the pole over. Sometimes it's hard to get in there. So yeah, this is just like really fluid and smooth, which is nice. And then the bushing just goes on the top of the board, and considering it's got that bushing there, it's going to keep it from slipping around. So it does just have the one setting, but I've like mashed it up next to my older bindings, which were a spark binding, and it's pretty much the same height as their highest setting, which is what I mostly use. So there's a lot of times in that kind of mid zone where you're kind of going up and down some rolling hills that I didn't feel like taking the time to put my heel riser up. So yeah, I don't think that's going to bug me too much. Just pretty psyched to ride a Union binding again. And then they've got a really good forward lean adjuster for the high back. So you just pull it out and then rotate it for touring mode. And then you can preset it with the screw for ride mode. So super easy, and yeah, just need some snow now. And yeah, I guess the last piece of the puzzle is it comes with their touring brackets. So like all this stuff that it takes to mount the board comes with the bindings, which is incredible because that's at $350, where I think that's the least expensive split board binding and setup like that you can get into, because usually you have to buy pucks and everything separate. So yeah, that's the Union Expedition binding. Yeah, just waiting on some snow now.